steady wage growth. But again, you're right. Gas prices are up. But if you look at 2021 and 2022, where headline inflation was at 7% and 6.5%, that 3.4% inflation now doesn't look so bad.
Alan, stick around for the show because in a few minutes, we're actually going to be doing a deep dive in that overall economic picture and why it's different potentially for some, individual economies throughout the country. You have an expert on that. But let me ask you this, because this is a question that was posed to me about the Republican messaging. Republicans are, pointing to socialism in South America, but there are a lot of Americans who are hearing some of the ideas from the progressive left or even the DSA that are talking about health care for all. And they think of Europe. They think of countries there that still have a thriving economy, but manage to have some of these ideas folded in. What's the Republican messaging around that?
Well, if you look at a lot of these Nordic countries on the economic freedom indices, they actually rank higher than the United States. So in many ways, the United States has become more big government than a lot of these places. So it's really an apple and oranges comparison, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Now, what I think the Republicans ought to focus on is what stuff like inflation numbers were at in January and February at 2.4%. They ticked up in March. They ticked up in April. They ticked up in May. Why? Obviously, because of this conflict in Iran. Yeah. But then in June, July, and August, they cooled. And that is actually during the time when most people are traveling and most people are spending money on gasoline, and yet they still cooled. So I think we're seeing a move in the right direction. That doesn't mean that what people feel at the pump and in the grocery store isn't real, but it does mean that it could be just temporary.
Hey, Scott, let me ask you this. I just spoke with former Democratic State Senator Dave Ehrenberg in the last hour, and he said that he thinks Jared Moskowitz is going to win over the DSA candidate, Oliver Larkin. He said this. Take a listen.
I don't believe that Larkin is that close to Moskowitz. I think Jared Moskowitz will win. I think he'll win handily. And then I think he will have a good chance of being the Republican. But make no mistake, if Larkin is the nominee, then the Republicans will win that seat because Florida is not like New York City.
Yeah. He also went on to say that even if Larkin wins, he wouldn't support Larkin. That brings me to the question, within the Democratic Party, as we get out of these primaries, there is a divide that some are saying is going to be a distraction for voters come November, and that's going to be to the Republican Party's benefit. What are your thoughts there?
I doubt it. The Republican economy is driven, the narrative, a negative narrative is driven, regardless of what my colleague says, is driven by Trump's economy, Trump's tariffs, and Trump's overseas wars that are costing not only American lives, but also causing a rise in gas pumps and what have you. I did a piece on the Democrats and the Democratic Socialists 2 or 3 weeks ago that was published on The Hill. And the Democrats will be smart to listen to the DSA messaging. You don't have to adopt them or agree with them, but the political enemy is Donald Trump and the GOP party. That's who they need to be focusing their efforts on. And if they want to fight internally or say, I'm not going to support a DSA candidate who won a primary, actually. And by the way, all these labels that the media uses and the GOP uses to scare these voters, let me tell you 2 things. One, young people who didn't grow up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Socialism means something completely different to them, and that's kind of what they're reading right now. But secondly, take away the labels. It is the messaging. And because of this GOP economy that is hurting all Americans, right? The DSA, label them or not, is a message that is resonating with those because capitalism, as great as capitalism is as a business Democrat, it's not working for poor people or the working class. Trump's economy is why the progressive left are winning these races because they're not talking about labels. What they're voting for is a different approach to attacking Trump, but more importantly, a better economy on kitchen table issues, inflation, jobs, and being able to afford housing and Medicare for all. Now, if you're poor and you're working and capitalism and Donald Trump's not working for you, I don't care what label you put on that candidate. I'm listening to those issues, and I want someone to make my life better. And that's why you have this surge in progressive left and DSA candidates. Democrats and Republicans need to be listening to the messaging of all of these candidates.
Alan, let me ask you about something that A. Scott mentioned there a moment ago, and that is the war with Iran. It has been something that has weighed on this presidency, and some are concerned, I'm sure, even within the Republican Party, that could weigh on voters' mind come November. We've got the president just this week, making comments, and I know by most accounts they're probably joking comments about the Strait of Hormuz becoming a territory of the United States. But those comments by many analysts of foreign policy make them think that this war could drag on. After 2 weeks ago, we were hoping the Strait of Hormuz would reopen. How much of a factor is the conflict in the Middle East going to be in November for voters, and how are Republicans messaging around that?
Well, I think it will be a factor. And I also think preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon is a vital national security priority. Yeah. So is protecting American energy security and keeping gas and everyday costs affordable. So we need to pursue both. We need to pursue both a secure America and an affordable America. And to that end, the Trump administration has increasingly shifted toward economic warfare as a way to pressure Iran. And, there's also the issue, we've got stockpiles depleted. It takes a while to build those up. But I think the idea is if we cut Iran's money, we restrict its ability to sell oil, we limit its ability to do banking and use cryptocurrency networks, and we blockade the Strait of Hormuz, then we're slowly causing Iran to deteriorate. We're seeing massive inflation there, like 70 to 90%. Its currency is collapsing. It's not able to export oil. It's not able to get oil to China, which, by the way, China was importing oil, from both Venezuela and Iran. So it's taken kind of a double whammy there. Yeah. Cost of living. Iran is just totally falling into dysfunction economically. And so I think this shift to economic warfare is actually a positive one, a very smart shift.
Yeah, there are estimates that Iran is losing $500 million a day, but there has been some concern that Iran's economy is one that has suffered for quite some time. Can they endure more pain than Americans can? And I think that is a part of what could be on the ballot come November. We're going to have to leave it there. And I see you wanting to say something more, A. Scott, but we'll have you back on. There's going to be plenty of conversations to have on these topics as we lead up to the November election. Alan Mindell, A. Scott Bolden, really appreciate both of you. Thank you for coming on. All right, happening right now.